Hi, SSS students. My name's Stephen Kunkel, and I'm a retention coach with Strive. So I work with Justin and Charlie. Recently, I've been added to the Events and Activities Committee, and this summer we're putting together some podcasts and videos on topics that we think will benefit you going towards the fall semester. And today's topic is academic resiliency during COVID-19. We're going to be talking about what resiliency means. We're going to hear from a student that was very resilient during the spring semester, and then we're going to look at some tips on how to stay resilient for the fall 2020 semester. Defining resiliency. Resiliency is an ability to recover or adjust to difficult situations or change. So that was definitely prevalent right before spring break and then afterwards spring break. Following spring break, everyone's suffered some disruptions. The transition from in-person to online classroom changed how you communicate with your classmates and professors. And then also the library being closed, you didn't have that area where you could have your study groups or where you could meet up with classmates to work on assignments. On top of that, you might have suffered a job loss, and everyone also suffered a social interaction loss being in quarantine. This did give you more free time, but it depends on how you use that free time, if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Now let's hear from a student on what resiliency means to him and how he was resilient during the spring semester.
Resiliency. Resiliency to me is when you fall down and get back up even stronger. It's not letting the pitfall determine the outcome of a situation. It's not giving up. Resiliency is how you bounce back. Recently, I was faced with a situation where I had to be resilient. I had to scramble and figure out different options and avenues for me to be able to graduate because I was faced with a problem that wasn't entirely in my hands. Pushing forward, communicating with different people, networking, and being determined to figure out my problems. I eventually found out different options and different solutions as to what I could do to still be able to graduate on time. Needless to say, being resilient is that's basically what it is. It's just figuring out problems to the solutions and capitalizing on those problems, pushing forward, not giving up. Be resilient.
I really appreciate Will taking the time to make that video and sharing his story on how he was academically resilient this past semester. Now let's look at some ways to remain academically resilient heading into the fall. If you haven't already, go ahead and make that appointment with your academic advisor and enroll in the fall 2020 semester. This shows that you still have your final goal in mind, which is to graduate. If you have questions or concerns, you can also reach out to us. We miss seeing you guys. You guys give us energy. We'd love to hear from you. And then also just reach out to fellow classmates, see how they're doing, see how they're handling this, and have that shared experience with them. Now let's look at some general tips on staying resilient. Number one, show kindness to others, but also to yourself. Number two, maintain appropriate expectations. And number three, focus on what you can control. Finally, I just have a few closing thoughts. First, you guys have already shown a great deal of resiliency if you were able to make it through the spring 2020 semester, so give yourself credit. Two, we want to hear from you. I know I already talked about it earlier, but we miss you guys and we want to be able to help you during this time, and that's our job. So please feel free to reach out, call us, email us, anything. And finally, continue to be resilient. I know that it's difficult, but taking steps like enrolling in the fall 2020 semester shows that resiliency and shows that you have your final goal in mind, which is to graduate. Thank you guys so much for listening. I look forward to hearing from you guys and have a great rest of the summer.